Welcome, impactful parents. All right, today is question and answer Thursday, and we're going to talk about how to balance love and discipline. So, if you don't know, I'm Kristina. I'm founder of the Impactful Parent, and every Thursday I come on and I answer one of your questions live here. And yay, you can submit your question for next week. You can either DM me, you can email me at theimpactfulparent@gmail.com. So, let's get to our question. All right, today someone wrote in and said, how do people balance love, attention, listening, and kindness with discipline and instilling strength? So what I'm hearing from this question is that really you're trying to figure out how do you balance love and kindness versus disciplining and making sure that our kids are resilient, but not really coddling them too much so that they can learn from their mistakes. Well, here we go. I love this question, and it is a great one because it's a paradox, right? We're always trying to balance this. And one of the things that I feel like a lot of parents make the mistake is they look at discipline as punishment. Now, discipline is actually the act of teaching your child how to do a better choice or how to behave in a way that's going to serve them better. So it's actually a teaching thing, discipline is. Now, punishment, on the other hand, has a definition of having somebody suffer for something. Now, can punishment and discipline be together? Of course. A punishment could be a form of discipline, but here's the key. It doesn't have to be. And that's the really exciting part. So I'm going to show you today or teach you the 3 things that I do with my 4 children all the time when they make a wrong choice and I need to teach them the better way. Now, this isn't easy. So I just want to tell you, like with all of the parenting stuff, I know that it's not easy. It takes time. And the last thing you want to do is sit down and start talking about your feelings and figuring out problem solving and all this stuff. But it is necessary if you want to get your child to learn from their mistakes and then move forward and make better choices. So here's the 3 things that I do. The first thing I do is I tell my child why it is necessary that I even have to discipline them. Now, it sounds like, wait a second, what? Like, wouldn't they know that? Actually, you'd be surprised. A lot of times, especially the younger the child, they don't really understand why they have to have a punishment and why you're sitting down and talking to them. They do know that they did something probably not right or that they could have made a better choice, but sometimes they just don't get it. So you really have to explain it to them. So explain, why does this behavior not serve them well? And why is it not such a good choice? The second thing that I do is I ask lots of questions. And this is key. And this is the part that takes a while, but you need to do it because this is where the learning and understanding of how they can make a better choice next time comes into play. So it's super important. So the following questions I'm actually put down in a free PDF for you today. So that link is going to be down below in this broadcast so that you can take a look at it, click on that link and not have to memorize all these questions I'm going to go through. But these questions are important. So I ask things like, how did this come to be? How did you come to this kind of decision? What events led up to this that influenced your decision making? And then wait for their response because you're trying to get your child to come up with their own conclusions here. That's where the learning process comes into play. I ask, did you always think that this was going to happen, or did this outcome evolve over time? I ask, would you change anything about what you did? And would you change anything about what would happen if you could? I asked them, did anyone really influence you or your decision or what happened, or did you come to all this alone? Super important. How has this changed you, or what have you learned from this experience? This is a great question for them. They need to process this. And lastly, of course, I ask, what can you do better next time to prevent this from happening, or how can we handle the same kind of situation again so that way they're ready and they can make that better choice? Now, the mistake that a lot of parents make is they take the quick and easy path of punishment. And I get it. It's easier. It's faster. And it is probably how your parents dealt with you. We tend to parent like we were parented. And so we do what we know. And that's where this evolving comes from. Nobody probably sat down with you and made you problem solve until you were older. But if you can catch your kids early, then this is where they're really learning. And the balance comes in of that love and teaching and understanding, and the empathy comes in with the discipline. So this is that balance that we're talking about that answers the question for today. Now, step 3 is going to be talking about the consequence. So it's not all just about asking questions. There does have to be a consequence to their actions. And hopefully, if there's a natural consequence that will happen so that you don't even have to think about what that consequence would be. Use the natural consequence if there is one. Now, if there's not, here's a couple other options. One other thing you can do is ask your child, what do you think the punishment should be? What do you think the consequence of this decision should be? And you, again, might be surprised on what they'll come up with. And you can brainstorm together on what you think is a fair consequence for that decision or those choices. And then another thing that you could do is look at the 4 different types of ways that you can punish or have consequences or discipline a child. I have a whole other video that's all about that. It's I break it down how the psychologists talk about the 4 different ways to discipline a child. And I'll make sure I leave that link down below too, because that can be really, really helpful. What happens is sometimes we get into a rut with our own punishments and consequences with our kids. We take away the electronics every time, or we ground them every time. And not only does that get boring, but it also lessens the learning process. So if you watch the other video with the link down below, it'll give you a little bit more choices on how to really link that behavior with a consequence that matters. So I hope these are really going to help you guys. Those discipline techniques really, really work. So again, thank you for coming. I hope that really helps. You're going to have 2 links down below. The first one is that free PDF to questions to ask your child so that they can learn from their choices, which is awesome. And the second link is to the 4 disciplinary processes that you can use to help create a consequence that matters to your child. And thank you for everything. I hope you guys are doing great at The Impactful Parent. Make sure that you submit your question for next week, either by DMing me or by emailing me at theimpactfulparent@gmail.com. And see you guys next week. You got this.